Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's question comes to us from the True Stories collection, as in, it actually happened in an event that I was actually judging. The question is, does Magus of the Bridge trigger from itself dying, giving you a zombie token, or not? Okay, so I'll admit the first time I saw this question I was a little bit thrown off, primarily because Magus of the Bridge uses a little bit unusual wording when it comes to its trigger condition. For reference, here's Golgari Germination, which has a very similar trigger condition, but it's worded slightly differently. As a judge, this is a really important trigger to look a little bit closer than you normally would, because as you've seen in this channel before, small changes in wording can lead to big differences in what the answer is. So let's take a look at exactly how triggered abilities are going to function relevant to this case. So anytime anything is going to happen in the game, the magic fairies who are in charge of triggered abilities are going to look and see if what just happened matches the trigger condition of any relevant triggered abilities. Now, when I say relevant triggered abilities, that's actually a little bit more complicated than it might seem at first. For example, triggered abilities, like abilities in general, generally only function when the creature that has them is on the battlefield. Of course, Magus of the Bridge is going to not be on the battlefield immediately after the event of Magus of the Bridge dies happens. So does that mean that it would not trigger? Well, if that was the end of the story, of course there were loads of triggered abilities that would not function at all. Anything that triggers when something leaves the battlefield, for example. And so, there's a whole class of triggered abilities that look at the game state immediately before the event happened to decide whether they are relevant or whether they exist for the purposes of triggered ability triggering. The comprehensive rules use the term looks back in time for this specific type of thing, and lots of triggered ability classes can look back in time. Basically, it's all the different types of triggered abilities that would need to be able to look back in time in order to function at all. Sure enough, leaves the battlefield triggers are one of those types of classes. Now we have to determine whether the triggered ability on Magus of the Bridge qualifies as a leaves the battlefield trigger or not. And this is also a little bit harder than you might think at first glance. There's actually a whole rule in the comprehensive rules that goes over all the different templates that leaves the battlefield triggered abilities can have. And this is the one that I'm talking about. As you can see, there is indeed a match between one of those special templates and the wording on the Magus of the Bridge's triggered ability. That means that Magus of the Bridge does indeed have a leaves the battlefield trigger, which means that it will indeed be able to look back in time, and you will get a zombie token if your Magus of the Bridge dies. However, you can see the importance of looking stuff like this up. It's very easy to imagine a universe where that triggered ability template from Magus of the Bridge did not match any of those leaves the battlefield things, and since it's a rather uncommon one, it's relatively unlikely that you would have this sort of thing memorized. So, with that being the case, let's talk a little bit about why Magus of the Bridge has such an unusually worded trigger ability in the first place. And of course the answer to that is because it's mimicking what the wording on Bridge from Below has. But that doesn't really answer the original question. So for the answer to that, let's take a look at Golgari Germination again, and we can see that there's a little bit of a difference in between what types of things are going to cause these two triggered abilities to trigger. At first it seems like they should be all the same cases, and anything that would cause one of these triggered abilities to trigger would cause the other to trigger also. But there is a slight difference in between something leaving the battlefield under your control and something getting put into your graveyard. If Amy gains control of a creature that Nick owns, well then when that creature dies, it's going to be put into Nick's graveyard, not Amy's. So that would mean that even though Amy had a creature die, Nick is the person whose graveyard had a creature put into it. And in cases like these, there is indeed a difference in whether these types of triggered abilities will trigger. That's really important for cards like Magus of the Bridge because which one of those cases happened is going to determine which of Magus of the Bridge's triggered abilities is going to occur. If Amy gains control of Nick's creature, then when that creature dies, it's going to put into Nick's graveyard, and that means that Amy is going to have her Magus of the Bridge get exiled. On the other hand, if Nick gains control of Amy's creature and then that creature dies, well, the creature is going to be put into Amy's graveyard, and so Amy will get a zombie from her Magus of the Bridge. So there is a difference, and that's what it would be. One more thing that I wanted to mention before I sign off. If you're going to Gen Con, well, I'll be there too this week. I'll be in the Magic area pretty much all day on Friday and Saturday, and so if you're interested in coming by to say hi, that'd be something that I'd be really interested in. So I hope to see you there. But that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again tomorrow for another daily ruling, but until then, I hope you have a great day.